How's it going, Exile? So today we're looking at my Simulacrum Splinter farming strategy. I've been using this strategy to make a lot of my currency, and you know, a couple of weeks ago it was very profitable because the price for Simulacrum Splinters was very high. Now the price has dropped, but also the price for Breach Splinters, for example, dropped accordingly. So I would say this is still a pretty decent farming strategy, and it has big advantages over Breach. I'm not going to say this is better than a Breach farming strategy or Ritual or anything. So this is definitely not a better farming strategy, but it has a very low entry level. You don't really need to spend hundreds and hundreds of exalts on breach tablets. You don't have to spend hundreds of exalts on maps. You can start running this with tier 11 maps, no problem, and you will make a relatively decent profit on every map. So every map you're gonna basically get somewhere in between 150 and 250 Simulacrum Splinters, and you get a decent amount of currency. And this strategy also allows you to get very high quantity on your map for decent prices. So what I mean by that is, if you want to run Breach, for example, which is most likely the best strategy after Ritual, Breach tablets will be upwards of 200 exalted orbs with just having some quantity on it. With this strategy, the tablets you need are actually having high quantity and are just, you know, 20 to 30 exalts each, which makes this strategy much easier to get into and much more affordable to get started with. This strategy aims at getting as many rare mobs and as much quantity on your maps as possible. By that we are basically using the Delirium Fox spawns increased fracturing mirrors stat, combined with the number of rare monsters stat and, you know, quantity from our tablets. And we can create some very juicy maps. So let's just look at some. This has 206% increased mirrors, 89% rare monsters, 40% more monster packs, and 316% quantity. Here's another one with 100% increased number of rare monsters, 200% increased number of mirrors, 340% quantity, some pack size and some rarity. And let's look at another one. This one has 40% more monster packs, 108% increased rare monsters, 150% fracture and mirrors, and 210% quant, and 171% rarity, and 970% Waystones. So this farming strategy is overall pretty relaxed. You don't have to pay attention to a lot of stuff, and that's probably why I will make it to my starting strategy for the next league whenever it will start. So in this guide you have all the trade links in the description down below as usually, so the trade links for all the tablets and maps. We are going over the Atlas tree, we will go over the tablets, how to choose your maps, we will go over what maps to buy and how to properly prepare and corrupt your maps and everything else. And at the very end of the guide I have a full map so you can see what you can expect of a good map and what you will have in your inventory at the very end. So without further ado, let's get started and let's get right into the Atlas tree. So we have a pretty standard Atlas tree here. We obviously get Deadly Emotion because we want to have more modifiers on our rares and uniques, because more modifiers basically give more quantity and more rarity on those mobs. And we have explicit Waystone increased effect here for each explicit modifier, so that means corrupted 8 mod maps are basically the best thing we can run. Then we have obviously the Waystones have either 25% more prefix or more suffix. So prefix modificators are the good stuff, suffix is the bad stuff basically. So on every second maps you're basically going to get a 25% boost to get these very juicy maps. And then we want to have more modifiers of towers, so the more towers are affecting your area, the more effectively, the more effect they get. And this one obviously gives you double the chance to have the effect of the tablets on your maps. So most people will run these two quantity nodes here. I instead run these tablet nodes here because I feel like since we have 20% quantity on every tablet, these have 8% increased effect, so this is technically almost 2% already, but these synergize very well with all the other tablet modifiers. So this is just pretty standard for a tree, just get some more rare monsters here. Then for our Delirium tree here, you basically need to do Simulacrum at least 2 times to make this profitable. Best to do it 3 times or 4 times. So if you only did it 2 times, you want to get this one here. So this doubles the stack size of Simulacrum Splinters. So instead of 1 splinter, you will always drop 2 splinters. So this is pretty mandatory. You really need this and this. This helps you to sustain maps. You can drop good Delirium maps, but it's still pretty rare, so you're still gonna end up buying most. But these two you gotta have at least. Without, you don't want to start this strategy. Then the next one is this one, more 50% more fracturing mirrors. This is very strong, but definitely not a requirement. You can start without that. And last but not least, you would want to have more unique bosses, because unique bosses just count as map bosses basically, so they drop very good stuff. And then, you know, the best thing you can have is already having the boss tree finished. I hope you have the boss tree finished, because this is very, very efficient. Because what you're going to get is all areas with map bosses are irradiated, so they are +1 level. And then you have also 30% chance to contain a random corruption. So this also will add another level to the area, and area levels are always nice to have. All this other stuff here doesn't really matter at all, but these last points here really help you on every map which has a boss. Right, as with every Atlas farming strategy, the most important is that you properly juice your stuff with your towers. So if you look at these, I have like a pretty decent spot here which has a lot of towers. And if you look at some of my maps here, this one, for example, has 147% quantity and 74% increased fracturing mirrors. We have like 109% here, 111 here. This is 129. Here's like a bunch of 90% ones, and I have much more in the 111. This is 93. This can already be juiced further. And the way that I do this is I basically use these tablets here. So I use increased fracture mirrors with quantity. So it's not so easy to get these. These usually cost between 20 and 30 exalts, but you can definitely go for 8% and, you know, start with like 15% quantity. But as you can see, like I have a bunch of these and they are not hard to get. If you look at all my towers, I also all used like the same tablet here. So you can obviously use different tablets. It doesn't really matter. The whole point of this strategy is that the tablets are fairly cheap and we can get a lot of quant on our maps. We don't care about these Delirium mirrors here at all. And this is definitely not as strong as a breach farming strategy, but the entry level for this is fairly cheap. You don't really need very strong maps and you don't really need very expensive tablets. And the way that you want to juice your map is I kind of, you know, go to the outside here. As you can see, I'm taking this way here. So I can take these towers from the back, so I don't have to move through this good maps here to the towers. This ends up being a good layout here. And I have like 2 more maps or 3 more maps like these ones here. I can still pick these 2 towers, which I will do a little bit later. But I just want to show basically what kind of maps we got. So this is the strongest one I have here, for example. This is 147. But you know, you get a bunch of maps with, you know, 90% plus quant, which is already pretty decent. So if you really use these high quantity tablets, which do not cost a lot, if you compare this to breach, like a tablet like this for breach, like an, you know, a 20% or a 90% quantity breach tablet, doesn't even matter what the prefix on it is, already costs you like 150 to 200 exalts. So these are fairly cheap, and that's why I like this strategy. Also, breach splinter prices and Simulacrum Splinter prices are not so much different anymore, and honestly, you're gonna find at least 4 to 5 times more Simulacrum Splinters than Breach Splinters with this strategy. Obviously, Breach still is gonna spawn you a bunch of more mobs. Alright, let's look at purchasing the tablets. Right now I have it set to 8% increased fraction mirrors and 17% quantity. I literally just bought out all the 9 and 10% plus. I mean, there's still some for in the range of like 40 exalts, but you know, we don't want to pay this much. So as you can see, these are easily obtainable in the range of, you know, 10, 15, 20 to, you know, 30 exalts. There's not a huge market for these, so you might want to check, you know, once, twice, or maybe 3 times a day and just buy out a bunch of these. But you also don't need a bunch of these, right? So you need like, you know, a couple to juice your maps. But again, I just recommend go in every day and buy these. If you really want to go for like high quantity, you can also just go for like other ones. You can just remove this filter here and, you know, you can just go for like any map, any Delirium map with like 17, or let's make it maybe 18% quant. And, you know, there's a bunch of 18% quant maps for like, you know, 10 to 15 exalts here. And if you compare this to Breach, you're not going to get an 18% Breach tablet for even remotely this price. An 18% Breach tablet is always going to be like 100 plus exalts already. So that makes this strategy nice and cheap. It's a pretty low entry level. And you will find the trade links to the tablets and the maps and everything in the description down below. So what maps do we want to run ideally? So you want to run maps which have increased number of rare monsters and increased number of monster packs. That is the best maps you can get. These maps we're going to use on our juiced maps where we have like the 100% plus quantity. We're going to use like maps like this, right? This again, 50% more rare mobs, 25% more monster packs. Here again, we have, what is this, 15% quant, 100 rarity, rare monsters, and stuff like that. So these kind of maps, very important set is really increased number of rare monsters. That is the best that we can get, because we're gonna spawn more mirrors of Delirium. So every mirror of Delirium we spawn can have a rare mob. And ultimately, we want to have as much rare mobs as possible, because rare mobs are the only thing which literally drops anything. Magic monsters don't drop anything. White monsters don't drop anything. Pretty much only rare monsters want to drop anything. So we want to have as much number of rare monsters as possible. An increased number of monster packs also increases the number of mirrors and other monster packs. So these are the ideal maps you want to do for the juice. And you can see, you know, I got a bunch of these maps. So again, I, you know, purchased these, you know, a couple of times. Maybe 1 or 2 times a day, and maybe in the morning before I go to work, I just sometimes do them. And then you have like basically the regular maps, which, you know, are still okay. Like this one has a little bit of rarity, quantity, whatever. But just aim for like the ones which are 100% plus delirious. And these are just run on every map basically, because these just give me like a bunch of extra Simulacrum Splinters. As you can see, I got like way more of these maps, so it's absolutely no problem buying these 100% plus maps. There's plenty of stock for these. Alright, as for buying the map, I also have a filter in the description down below, and I have set it to 40 exalts right now. You can definitely set it to like 20 exalts if you like. Let's just look at it at 40 exalts. So you want to sort by the weighted sum here. And this is heavily focusing on increased number of monster pack and increased number of rare monsters. These are the best mods for us. Other good mobs are obviously you know, increased pack size, rarity is always good, quantity is always good. But, you know, increased number of rare monsters is definitely the best mod for us. And if you look at these are already very good maps. And as you can see, these are in the range of like, you know, 30, 40 exalts. I set it to 40 max. But, you know, you can also get these for 20 and lower. This is high value maps, so you only want to run these on the juiced maps. And again, the link is in the description down below. And if you just want to go for like regular 100% Delirium maps while you're on the way, or you're juicing, or you're like clearing until you have the towers and everything. I have another filter which is basically just looking for 100% Delirious, and you just, you know, go for the lowest. Ignore like all the cheap ones here. You start at 15 basically. So at 15, these actually start selling. And I recommend either getting the blue ones, which are unidentified, get the white ones. And for the yellow ones, I would honestly look for a number of rare monsters here. I wouldn't buy like any random yellow ones. So you can get a bunch of these white and blue ones usually, and sometimes you get really good maps. But you can see, like for the price of 20 exalts per map, you can absolutely get very, very nice 100% plus delirious maps, no problem. So as for preparing your maps, I don't have the maps on me right now. I'm just making an example here, right? So you want to buy your 100% delirious maps. You want to buy them in rare, uncorrupted, or corrupted if they're good. You want to buy them in white, or you want to buy them in blue. So first thing you do is you don't really look at the maps at all. You just alg all white ones, right? You just augment all magic ones. Then you just regal all magic ones. Then you just exalt them up to 6 mods. You don't even look at these maps, right? You exalt them up to 6 mob. Then you check if they can still be made delirious. Just, you know, I will show you after I corrupt these with the other maps where you want to check. But, you know, these cannot be made anymore delirious. I cannot install anything of them. So at the very end, you just corrupt them. And then, you know, after you corrupt them, you basically start looking at the maps and you filter the good ones. Okay, before corrupting your maps, you want to make sure to check these for the 100% delirious ones. Because you have these, this is, I believe, 2 times isolation on it. And these can have a third one. So only these which have exactly 100% delirious here and no other modifiers. Don't forget to put Distilled Emotion on this. So I recommend putting Distilled Paranoia on it for more rare monsters, because this is our primary modifier. So don't forget to put these on before you corrupt these maps, because otherwise you would be missing out on 15% more rare monsters and another 12% Delirious here. So now I'm leaving you a full example map. As you can see, this is a 111 with 56% increased fracture mirrors. And we have a decent map with, you know, 50% rare monsters, some number of monster packs, some rarity and stuff like that. So let's run this map, and at the very end we'll look at all the loot we got from it. So here we're looking at the loot from the example map. As you can see, we have 231 splinters, we have 1 divine, we have 23 exalts, we have 3 chaos, and we have, you know, a bunch of maps and some change. So this is kind of the range you want to expect for a map. You can definitely get more, but you can also get less. You're not going to get a divine on every map, obviously, but you could expect from an average map, which has like roughly 100% quantity, you can expect upwards of 150 Delirium splinters. You usually get like 20 to 30 exalts. You usually get like 4 to 5 chaos orbs, and you know, I would say you get like a divine every like second or third map. You know, obviously it's RNG. I'm running 100% rarity on my gear, and that is should be a requirement for you. But yeah, this is kind of what you can expect. So this is the whole strategy. So I hope you find this video useful, and thank you so much for watching, and I see you guys next time.